moderating this panel. And also, we've got David Blumberg Capital, and James Fishback of Azoria Partners. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about all the great opportunities here in the good old red, white, and blue.
Awesome. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you to the Economic Club of Miami. We're really, 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 really grateful to have this kind of group in Miami. This is a big part of the growth that we're going to experience over the next 10 years. And Francisco, James, John, et cetera, awesome job. So today we're talking about investing in America. If you guys have been here since this morning, it's been a lot of LATAM. I've learned about Chile. I've learned about Guatemala. But we're in the USA, baby. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. How we're going to start is just a quick little intro. So again, I'm Michael Morgenstern. I moved to Miami 2.5 years ago. I work at a company called Brex. We do banking, corporate credit cards, treasury, bill pay. We're beating up on Concur, if anyone uses Concur. Also an angel investor, and trying to build community here in Miami. Really grateful to have David and James. So why don't we just do a quick intro, a little bit about who you are, where you come from, what your firms are doing now, and if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be wanting to do? So David.
Perfect. I love the last part of that question. Greetings. And where are the people in the center? Okay, the people on the edges, you guys get prizes because you showed up. These people, we're going to penalize them. So thrilled to be here. Thank you, Michael. And great to be with my fellow panelists here. We are investors. I'm a refugee from California. I fled to the free state of Florida, and a lot of other people like me did. And it's really nice because as soon as I moved here, guess who came to visit? The governor. And he came to our house and he said, "You're the kind of people we want in our state." I lived in California for 50 years and nobody came to visit me. So, just showing up and saying thank you is great. What does our firm do? Our firm is an early stage venture capital specialist. Most of our investments are business to business. They are software mostly. We do some other things. We've done 7 or 8 in Florida alone since we got here, which is surprising to me, but pleasantly so. We have investments in North America, Europe a little bit, and Israel a lot. So about 65% is North America, 30% Israel, and maybe 5 to 10% Europe. It's, again, almost all tech-oriented. We like to apply artificial intelligence to vertical databases that are proprietary. And so they can be augmented to what, say, the large language models are doing, but this is where we have some unique, sustainable advantage. And then the sales motion in a vertical is a bit easier, so we get a repeatable motion like that. Our portfolio is about 70 companies. I'll pause there, it's probably too much news.
AUM?
I have 2 kids. They are very happy here. I couldn't find a wife, so I got a husband, but it's okay. Nobody seems to care here. It's fine. AUM is just under $1 billion, but it's worth a lot more. And we've had a lot of successes. We've had about 10 that have gone from early stage, like no revenue, to unicorn, and 6 of them have gone public. We think, we'll talk about the economy and stuff going forward. You said, if I wasn't here, what would I be doing? Okay, so to this crowd, I can say this. If I wasn't doing this, I would like to run a small Latin American country.
Perfect crowd. James.
Now, David, you understand when you run a small Latin American country, Trump can hit you with tariffs like it's just out of nowhere. So that comes with real upside.
But think about how long they got away with it until he got here.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that, Francisco, I'm grateful for the invitation, but I would not be as optimistic as I think you and I both are, David, had President Trump not secured a victory in November. And it was an enormous victory. My name is James Fishback. I founded an investment firm called Azoria. We are a free-thinking investment firm, which it's weird that we'd have to say that, Francisco, a free-thinking investment firm, but much like what David does, we think for ourselves. We don't get caught up in the biases and the whatever narrative of the day. We try to look at the facts as they are. And you said something really important, David, about AI. What the DeepSeek lesson from a couple weeks ago taught us is that the models are becoming increasingly commoditized, and the value you've identified, it's spot on, David. The value is the data. Bingo. Look at what you did with AdPar, David. Look at what you did there. 15 years of wealth management data, all sorts. That's where the ultimate value is going to be. And when you think about data, think about Tesla. Not only do they have the best self-driving model. It drove me here from South Beach, and that's not an easy drive, as you know. That is not an easy drive at all. I didn't touch the steering wheel once for 7 miles. So Tesla has the best model in the world, but remember, they have 5 million cars collecting data every single day. And so when we think about the golden age, when we think about AI, David, you're right. It's about the data. That's what's going to distinguish who is in the golden age and who is in, dare I say, the stone age.
So we have a great panel here, right? Smart cookies. Let's get into it. Lay of the land. We're a couple weeks after Trump is in. We see tariffs. We see NVIDIA and DeepSeek last week. We see some carried interest talk right now. We'll go, what's the state of the venture market, and what's the state of the public markets from your perspective, James? David?
Okay, so there's a big question. I'll try and focus on a few things that are important or changing. First of all, you said this is about America. Guess what? This is the best place to be investing in the world right now. You are lucky that you're here. This is a great place. Our companies from Canada, our companies from Europe, our companies from Israel, they all want to sell here first. This is the early adopter market. This is the place where the big companies lean forward. Why is that? Well, it used to be the case that if you were on the Fortune 500, you were there for about 90 years at the beginning of the century. I think today it's about 15 years. There's incredible disruption going on. How do those guys stay, and gals, and big companies stay at the top? They have to innovate. It's hard to innovate when you're a multi-billion-dollar company. So they generally buy smaller, innovative companies like ours, or they are, actually, us, you're more public markets, like ours. He's an angel, I'm a VC. So the startups get bought, or they distribute the products. It's that rich ecosystem. So I think of venture capitalism as the outsourced R&D function for the global 10,000. The biggest companies in the world can't really do it inside anymore, except, interestingly, in this new world of these large language models. This is one of the first times that the largest companies in the world were absolutely the leaders in this brand new innovation. It didn't happen in a lot of other recent innovation waves. They were startups that sort of pioneered the day. In any case, I'm excited by the point of DeepSeek. I didn't think it was a terrible thing. I think it's a good thing. First of all, we want technology to be cheap. We want technology to be affordable. We want the pyramid to be wide at the bottom and to have everybody benefit. A great Latin American economist, Hernando de Soto, read his work. I think the fortune at the end of the bottom of the pyramid, something he's written a bunch of books. And so we want the technology to be cheap and plentiful and reliable. Energy should be cheap, plentiful, and reliable. This administration is going to change that on energy. Energy is absolutely vital for the AI revolution to succeed. It's also required for every other industry. Whether you're a gardener driving from East Pasadena to Beverly Hills to mow lawns, you don't want to pay $5 gas. You want it to be more like $2 gas. And then for electricity and so on and so forth, we want it cheap and reliable. This administration is going to really have a field day and liberate energy. And the policy that I would advocate is what we call energy freedom. No mandates, no subsidies. We don't need it. Let us all compete. Just deregulate, let the nuclear compete with the solar, compete with the coal, gas, oil, everything. And each industry will find its own best and highest use in the appropriate way. Back to venture. Venture is in a strange world right now. There's not yet a big IPO market. There was obviously in 2021, and then interest rates went crazy because I think the government did the wrong kind of spending and that caused it. Eventually I think interest rates will come down. I think that the energy will be deflationary, that stuff. The tax cuts might be slightly inflationary because demand, but I think ultimately it'll be better if they deregulate and unleash the supply side effects of the economy. For that, you want to go deeper, go into the Laffer curve stuff. When you deregulate, you're going to reduce the cost of burden on everybody. Who does that help best? Which sector of the economy does deregulation help most? Smaller businesses. Because the big businesses have the lobbyists, they have the lawyers, they have the accountants. So if you favor small business, you really want to favor deregulation. And the startups apply for that. I don't want to talk too long, but a couple more points. For funding, terms of trade have changed. In 2020, 2021, it was very much on the side of entrepreneurs. It swung back 22, 23, and still today, more toward investors. It's harder to get funded. The valuations have gone down somewhat. Certain areas like AI are still quite high. Other areas that are exciting, and I think we're starting to look at them very actively. If you have deals, we want to see them. Defense. We always did cyber, but we didn't do defense. I've been to Israel after 10/7. I haven't been to Ukraine, but I have many friends there, and we have companies that have operations there. Those two wars have told us two very important things. We have underinvested, both us and the Europeans, in defending freedom, and our weapons generations need to be upgraded. We have old stuff. You won't believe it, but the guns we're using today were designed in the 30s. The rifles we're using today were designed in the 1930s. So there's a whole new generation that needs to be, and I'm not even talking about drones, which are super important going forward. All that stuff is going to be very exciting. And we barely got to what I really invest in, which is enterprise software, but that's AI, and I'll let James go more into that. But those are a few areas we're super excited about. Quantum is a little bit ways away. Don't invest yet in quantum. I don't think the stuff is there yet, but it'll come. I'll pause.
James. All great points, David. There's two things there. The one is DeepSeek. The markets took this as some kind of deep fake, which is what you see isn't exactly what you get. They saw this as this enormous negative catalyst. But when in history, David, has delivering a technology more efficiently, more inexpensively, ever been a bad thing? This is unequivocally a good thing. And what it means is that the AI revolution is more tangible, more real, more impactful today than it was even a month ago. So that's the first point. The second is deregulation. I told this to Vivek about a month ago that deregulation, one of the most underappreciated benefits of it is it's actually disinflationary. Here's why. When you point out, David, that small businesses, rightly so, are the biggest beneficiaries of a deregulation environment, what ends up happening? New businesses crop up. Think of all the businesses in America that never get started, that never get off the ground because of bureaucratic paperwork, red tape, and just hula hoop after hula hoop you have to jump through while chewing gum, while singing La Cucaracha in perfect Argentinian Spanish, right? You can't do that.
Can I give an example?
Yes,
Let's give
please.
one example. This is a great one, and I want to give huge praise to the state of Arizona. And it was, who was that woman, the senator, Kristen Sinema. She's gone now, right? She left. She was an interesting person because she believed in a lot of deregulation. She helped pass a bill when she was a state senator, because this was a state law, and then she went to the US Senate. It was called something like reciprocity of certification. Mm-hmm. And the example I'll use is of a hair braider. Okay, there are people who need hair braiding, and evidently some states saw fit that it should be regulated. You have to get training, and you have to be certified, and it costs money and hours and time. Well, guess what? If a hair braider from Tennessee wants to move to Arizona, they'd have to get trained again, so they can't be working. These are not always high-end rich people. Like, why the hell are we doing that? If she's good enough in, or he, whatever, in Tennessee, why not good enough in Arizona? So they passed a rule. If you have certification in a trade, in a skill, plumber, solderer, hair braider, whatever, you receive reciprocity. I think that should be applied in every state of the union. My brother-in-law tried to be, he's an excellent fireman, EMT from Canada. He came down to Marin County to marry my sister. He can't work in the fireman stuff.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So we want labor mobility. Does that make sense? And DeSantis did something smart. During the 2020, when it was defund the police, and a lot of people, police were resigning or being fired, he said, come on down. You'll be certified right here. Fire, police, first responders. We should do that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And he did the same thing, by the way, for teachers. When there's a teacher shortage, he said, look, if you're a vet, come in. We want you to be a teacher. Go through this 8-week training course and then be in the classroom, because if you served our country in the Marines or the Army or the Navy, you have the skills, the temperament to be able to serve our students in this great state. And to the Florida point, still more work to do. Just one egregious example to the hair braider, but how about a barber in Florida? A barber in Florida has to sit for 600 hours of instruction, take a test, pass it, and pay a $500 fee. That's called the big hair lobby, okay? Supercuts goes up to Tallahassee and lobbies for that. And I'll tell you, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you support that, you are anti-capitalism, you are a crony capitalist.
And you're anti-poor people.
And you're anti-working class Floridians. And so what Kristen Sinema, who I have many beefs with otherwise, but that's a very, very good policy of hers, is we need labor mobility. And I can tell you, DOGE is very closely looking at what's called occupational licensing. It sounds so beautiful, doesn't it? It's a euphemism. We just need occupational licensing. So the barbers are going to treat you right. Look, the market is going to reward the winners and the losers. If you're a bad barber, I have a good barber. If you're a bad barber, his name's
Starts because you have good hair.
I have great genes in my family. I really do. But if you have a great barber, he gets rewarded by the market. Folks vote with their feet, and bad barbers go bankrupt. And the government should do nothing about it, shouldn't try to pick winners and losers, and occupational licensing does that. So to come full circle, to your point, David, what do we need right now, and what are we getting? The exact same thing. The largest deregulation wave in American history, right in time for our 250th birthday. If you want to braid hair, if you want to start a business, if you want to launch an AI model, whatever it is, you will do it here in America. And that is what the golden age, Michael, is predicated on wide-scale deregulation.
In our prep call, I said that the golden age of America will come when California, the golden state, is back to what it should be. So we have a ways to go, and while we're in Florida, California, as a Californian, I hope you agree.
There's an old Yiddish expression, ojalá. That was supposed to be Spanish. Okay, it's not Yiddish. But yes, I hope so. We want California to do better. I have no schadenfreude. I don't want California to fall off into the sea. I want
Gavin Newsom to fall off in the sea.
God was very good to California, or geology, whatever you believe in. But it's beautiful. There's mountains and seas and deserts and snow and everything. But the politicians have been just meddling too much. They're just in everybody's business, and they've got to just back off.
So let's talk a little bit about the founders and the CEOs that you guys are working with, and a little bit about their vibe check or change that's happened over the past couple of weeks. We've seen Zuckerberg, smooch Trump a little bit. Elon posted, Donald Trump's my favorite guy of all time, something like that yesterday. Man love. James, what do you think is happening right now with the way that CEOs and the C-suite is operating, especially with all these changes in the federal government?
Well, imagine that photo. I was there at the inauguration, and to see Elon Musk, and to see Sundar Pichai, and to see Tim Cook behind President Trump. What did Sam Altman say after Trump's victory? That under Trump's leadership, we are going to usher in the next generation of AI. We've never seen business leaders, business innovators stand behind a president the way that he has. And look, it's not just those particular individuals, Michael. It's the Small Business Optimism Survey surged 40 points, the largest one-month move on record after Trump's win in November. The optimism, the vibe change is palpable. It's incredible, and we're already starting to see it. And so I think there's a big move here toward what Trump calls the merit system, meritocracy. We've got to get back to hiring the best and brightest on their skill and on their talent, not on their race and gender. And what I announced, and President Trump was there at Mar-a-Lago, Francisco was there as well, is we're calling the Azoria Meritocracy Fund. It is the first ever ETF. There are 500 stocks in the S&P 500. We start with 500, but we exclude any stock that has a DEI hiring quota. So if you're Best Buy, and you say, as Best Buy does, that 1 in 3 new hires must be BIPOC, must be BIPOC. If you're a company like Starbucks, it says that we need 40% ethnic diversity in our workforce. That is no way to run a business. My mother is a legal immigrant from South America, and growing up, she was reluctant to work for companies that had these hiring policies of affirmative action. She does not want to be. Americans do not want to be hired on their race and gender. It's not fair to them, it's not fair to the company, and it's no way to run a productive enterprise. And so I think, David, you'd agree with me that meritocracy is going to be a key factor in bringing about this next era of change.
I'll give another personal example. By all accounts, I was the first openly gay founder of a medium to large size venture capital firm in the world. Whoop-de-doo. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Did I ever invest in somebody especially because I'm gay? No, that would be stupid. Did anybody ever want to take my money because I'm gay? No, they'd be stupid. It's ridiculous. We're here to do business with each other.
That's right.
Okay? So the point is, do I want to discriminate? No, that's dumb for me to discriminate. Are there people who discriminate? Of course there are. That's true in every society, in every history of time, because humans are fallible. Humans have a proclivity to be, are they my team or the other team? And we should do our best to resist that. Like what I like to say is we are all God's children. We have one parent. Okay, we're one family. Whether we look like or who we sleep, it doesn't matter what we believe. We're all in the image of God. So let's get rid of the nonsense. Hire for the best positions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little personal detail.
That's right.
TMI.
No, it's right.
And I think that at the end of the day, exceptional companies are run by exceptional people. That's not controversial. Hire the best people. If you're a company like Autodesk and you say that we're going to hire 25% women for this particular, and they actually have this codified policy for this particular software role, why stop at 25%? If women are 50% of the applicant pool, you hire all 50, you hire all 90, whatever it is, why are we treating people like tokens in a reverse caste system? And it just so happens that our research at Azoria, David, has found that companies that have these DEI hiring quotas have consistently underperformed the market. And so this ETF is based on a pretty simple premise. If you kick out the woke losers and laggards and reinvest that into the meritocratic winners like Palantir, like Tesla, like NVIDIA, maybe, just maybe, you'll outperform the market.
I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I love Palantir, and Alex Karp is awesome. Who here understands what Palantir actually does?
How many of you have heard of Palantir? Okay, no, well, some more.
That means the
86
stock's
times.
still too cheap.
Okay,
The ontology, someone said it. There we go.
well, you can say that the basic. The basic is using algorithms to understand very complex data sets and find non-obvious correlations that would be either too expensive or too time-consuming for an individual or a group of people to do. So I'll give one example that I remember from the early days of Palantir. They used to say, well, if we capture some terrorists and we find their cell phones, and then we can tie it to bank accounts, and then we can figure out who's related to who's cousins, and so on and so forth, then the FBI or the SWAT team, whoever's coming in, can have a huge advantage in trying to break up that terror cell. Something like that. And there are many, many more examples now.
The smartest people I know work at Palantir, so that's probably a great signal. Let's talk a little bit about, there's some founders in the room. I can point out a bunch of them here. What should they be doing? How should they be operating, especially the earlier stage founders that are raising for the first time or second time? They're going to a Series A or a seed. How should they be optimizing in this environment?
Okay, well, you've come to a great state. You're in a great city. You have a lot of people who are very pro-business. That's a great help. I think you're in a great time. The needle is moving up. It's facing me. It's going up there. The economy is going to probably get better given this political change. America is a great place of investing. So again, you've got a lot of good base fundamentals or tailwinds for you. If you're in the software area, again, also a great tailwind. I'm also a believer in basic business. North America, Canada, US, and Mexico together have everything. People used to say, and I have a great story, I'll do this. I was in Israel about, 15 years ago, and the Irish ambassador to Israel invited me and a group of people to a garden party. And he came out to welcome everybody. He said, people say it's going to be the Chinese century. They're wrong. It's the North American century. My accent's not so good, but the point is, he said, North America, you have everything. You have the natural resources, you have young people, you have the broadest and deepest capital markets, you have the technological hubs, you have rule of law for the most part. And that's an amazing thing to have. So we have it right here to screw up. Let's not blow it. But for entrepreneurs, don't lie, be straightforward, show what you've got, try and get a few customers before you come to a VC. It always makes it stronger. We also invest in companies that are pre-revenue, so it's okay. It's just different stages, different valuations, different risk factors. And once you move toward more customers and you de-risk your company, more investors are attracted. At the earliest stage, there are only a few of us that are willing to talk to you. But if you get to $1 million in revenue, that's one set of investors that will potentially invest in you. 5 or 10 million, more people come in, and then obviously toward the public markets where everybody can invest. So it's a kind of a triangle, and the narrow end of it is the earliest stage. We and a few other folks are willing to do that. There's some great angels, and that's a blessing. Again, 20, 30 years ago, the angel community was very, very small. Today, because there have been so many exits and so many entrepreneurs are like artists, it's not that they get rich, go off to Tahiti and drink margaritas. No, they come back and they do it again. And they're willing to teach and mentor and help. So I see a lot of you here who probably have had a few exits under your belt. So that's fantastic, and that really benefits entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur and you don't know a mentor, find one before you approach a VC, because those mentors will know us. They can help, hey, go to this one, not that one. Here's what to think about beforehand. So test your case before you approach a VC. Talk with other entrepreneurs and talk with other mentor angel types. Make sense?
Absolutely. So while I personally believe the M&A markets are going to open up significantly, but if you do go to raise M&A or VC, be shooting for the moon, right? This is a power law type of business, and so don't rely on that $200 million exit. You want that $2 billion IPO plus. I know we got a couple minutes. I want to finalize just with James. You were in DC this week. I don't know if you want to share a little bit what you're hopeful about, what you're excited about, and maybe what you're worried about.
I'm excited by the speed at which stuff's happening.
Who's surprised by it? Me.
I think that even if you were supportive of this administration before, you are really surprised at how quickly things are happening. And if you weren't supportive, then you are especially surprised and shocked about how quickly things are happening. That pottery class in Morocco shut down. Doge got to it fast, right? This is an administration that, wouldn't you know, is running like a high-performance business. They're not being bottlenecked. They're not getting caught up in 15 different Zoom meetings. They're not circling back like Jen Psaki for the 15th time. They're running the country like a high-performance business, like it should be run. And when you do that, you supercharge the economy, you bring on new investments, and you just do things. It's like you can just do things. It's that simple. And so as a founder, as someone who's leading a business, I am inspired by the administration because they wake up one day and they say, well, we want to solve X. We want to solve the problem with fentanyl at the southern border. Well, let's just do it. What are who needs a bipartisan border bill when border crossings are down 92% over the past month? All that back and forth in the Senate with Lankford and this, that, and the other all summer, you can just close the border and delete the CB1 app. That's all you have to do. And so the biggest thing is we're running the country like a high-performance business. That is good for everyone, especially workers.
I want to, because if there's no controversy, then
yes,
it's gonna
please
be boring.
disagree.
So I'm gonna go put on my battling gloves. All right, I want to just depoliticize it a little bit, and I want to reach out. If there are people who are not supportive of the new administration, I want you to feel safe and comfortable. Okay, this is not an administration, as far as I can tell, that's going to come after anybody, unless you're a corrupt bureaucrat. They don't hate people. They don't hate racial groups. They don't hate gays. They don't hate trans people. None of that stuff. There are issues of policy where you're going to differ. That's okay. But I really want people to understand this is not a hateful group of people. And I personally got to know so many of them. I've introduced them to my kids and my husband and all that stuff. So I kind of know personally a lot of how they act and interact. Americans can have different policies. That's okay. And I've changed my policy mind sometimes over the years, and maybe you will too. So let's not hold each other to too high of a standard of like, you have to be totally consistent, you have to be never hypocritical. We're all humans, we're all very fallible. So I just want to say, you're a true believer, and I am too probably, but there are people not quite yet in our camp.
That's
and I
fine.
want to say, hey, we're all in this together. We want to raise all the ships. It's not just to help Elon Musk get rich. There is a meme that says, oh, he's just going to be a dictator. I don't think so. It doesn't seem that way. When has a fascistic dictator ever wanted to build a weaker government? Usually they want to build a stronger government, right? Take away stuff. Usually, this government is trying to say, power back to the people. Let's decentralize. Let's limit it all again, like it was maybe many, many years ago. So I want to just, again, reach out and say, hey, this is not a takeover. No one's trying to blow some people out of the world. It's trying to just less government intervention in all of our lives and let everybody thrive to the extent possible. And nobody's saying take away the full safety net. Of course we need a safety net. That's absolute requirement. Is that fair?
Absolutely fair. The safety net, though, cannot be the safety couch, and then the safety jacuzzi, and then the safety Tempur-Pedic. It is a safety net, and that net needs to have a little bungee to it, okay? If you fall, you deserve to be caught. This is America. We're not going to let single moms struggle on the streets. But that safety net has to trampoline folks back to get on their feet. And to go full circle, David, to your point, on occupational licensing and deregulation, we've got to make it easy for that single father from Tennessee who wants to move down to Florida and braid hair or cut hair, that he's going to be able to do right by his daughters. It wasn't until early last year that in Louisiana, you had to have a license to sell floral arrangements. Whoever put those flowers together could legally have not done that without paying a fee and taking a test in the state of Louisiana.
Call in the floral arrangement police.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And so this is good stuff. And if you want the country to succeed, you truly do want this new administration to succeed.
Just to finish up, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to be an investor. Interest rates are higher, so it's risk off somewhat compared to what it was in the last 10 years. But you know what? Let's be real. Interest rates were held too low, too long, and we are suffering from that. You know, there's Newton's law, equal and opposite reaction. I'm not sure if it's equal reaction, but the pendulum is vicious when it swings. And I feel pain for those people who want to buy a new house now. They're stuck with a low mortgage. If they sell and they move to the new house, wham. So this feel-good low interest rate forever and ever and ever, modern monetary theory, was a bunch of junk. And it really is going to hurt people when it hits them in the face. So I'm sorry for that. But we will get over it. We'll try and get back to normal economic policies again.
So we'll ask some questions if anyone has some questions. But I'd say like on the early stage market right now, the cost of building a company is getting a lot cheaper. Talent is everywhere. The founders that are out on the market are the best people in the world solving a problem that they know better than anyone else. It's a very, very exciting time in the early stage market, and valuations are seemingly pretty okay.
Here are a few other things. Credentials mean less than they used to. I went to Harvard. Who cares?
Not me. Some questions.
Yes, my name is John Felchicchio. I used to be a Democratic operative. I'm now in private business.
Okay, cool.
I used to live in D.C. I now spend more of my time in Florida.
Ooh, I get the pattern.
And I used to have a full head of hair, and now I'm follically challenged. I don't know if you guys can help with that last one. But my question is, looking at the new administration, for venture capital or for startups, what's the one policy or regulation or legislation that you want to see in the next in these first 6 months or in this first year to help venture capital or startups?
Well, I really think that there's this debate, one bill or two bills for the reconciliation. I don't know if you guys are inside the beltway. I'm for one bill. I don't know if you agree. The reason I'm for one bill is because I want the economic stuff. I want the tax cuts, the depreciation stuff to reset, and the energy stuff to come through. Because the energy liberation will be deflationary. It'll mean not only that the AI is cheaper because the electricity is cheaper and more reliable, very important, but it also means that it's cheaper for the guy who drives from East Pasadena to Beverly Hills to mow lawns, back and forth. That's important too. Energy is a very big part of poor people's expenditures every year. And if we can reduce that, they have extra spending money and money to invest and to save. Okay, so that's going to be good for the economy. The tax cuts, they have a lag effect. If you do the cutting now and the deregulation early, sorry, is this okay? I'm talking to him. Then we'll get some questions over there too. Then you get the results come 6-9 months out. So if you want this administration to last, you got to keep the House in Republican hands. Therefore, the economic stuff has to happen early. So I'm for energy and tax cuts in the first part of the bill. I've been talking to a lot of congressmen and people who, some of them are saying the opposite. It's a minority, but they're a powerful minority, and they might be able to block. So if you can lobby for one bill first.
And keep carried interest. We like carried interest. One more.
Hi, thanks. My name is Daniel Calabro, and thank you all so much for the energy brought to the discussion. I thought it was really engaging, and I really enjoyed it. As a founder who's relatively new to Miami, I wanted to ask you guys your opinion on the startup space here in Miami, and why is this a great space to build startup?
So I'll start quickly. I think either you're a startup founder or you're not, the entrepreneurial energy in every neighborhood is electric, right? So everyone's an entrepreneur in Miami. Everyone's got a side hustle. You smell capitalism when you walk outside. I think you could be a big fish in a smaller pond here. And I don't think this is necessarily a tech hub, but I see Miami as like a Singapore or Dubai, but the Western Hemisphere. So the capital markets here are super rich. So as far as identifying investors, it's pretty decent to get started if you want to raise $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 here.
We just invested in 2 companies very recently, right from Miami. I was speaking at another conference, so I hope out of this conference I'll find one. I spoke at University of Miami about 2 months ago. I don't think it's been announced yet. I won't say the name, but I was speaking about one of our exits in fintech. It's a company called Finaro, and they were a merchant acquiring bank. It's a super complicated business. They're the ones who process card non-present payments cross-border. Okay, WorldPay, Nuvei, there are other ones that do it. Ultimately, we sold for about $1.1 billion to Shift4. And interestingly, the Shift4 CEO just became the nominee to head up NASA, because he's a buddy with Elon Musk, which helps, I guess, these days. So the point is that at the intermission, after I went off speaking, a guy came up to me and said, Mr. Blumberg, did you ever have a problem with the risk-bearing aspect of merchant acquiring bank. When you were at Finaro, I said, yes, we had to fire clients because the risk of, say, a cruise line for a merchant acquiring bank is really high. Why? Between the time you buy the cruise ticket and the time that you use it, there can be 6 months and the company can go bankrupt. Who bears the risk? Cruise ship company's gone. The acquiring bank, because Visa's not going to let those poor people who bought the tickets suffer the problem. So I said, yeah, that was a big problem. He said, we're going to solve this through insurance. So these brilliant guys, he happens to be an immigrant from France. He's tried California now. He's coming to the free state of Florida like you. He said, I can do things better here. And we've made a decision to invest in that company along with the great fund H20 and a few others that are local. So that's one example, and we got another one. How many of you know Flex Storage? Have you seen those vans around? That's our next one.
It's a great place. A lot of work to do. We're going to crush it in Miami. I think that's it for us today. So, David, James, pleasure. One more. Can we do one more? Thank you, Francisca. Please.
Okay. Hi. Hello. My name is Asia Blocker. I'm a senior at the University of Miami studying finance and marketing. My question was kind of in regards to your comments of moving from DEI initiatives to more meritocracy. Today we talked a lot about how America is a land of opportunity. That's been kind of coined a lot, tossed around a lot today. And I wanted to ask you if you truly believe that everyone in America has equal opportunity. And you relay that in access to healthcare and access to education, because my fear of moving from DEI initiatives to complete meritocracy initiatives is that we start to cater only to the 1% that can afford education and can afford access to different job opportunities. And I know companies have initiatives like JP Morgan, for example. They have Advancing Black Pathways initiative that allows black college students to get their foot in the door at a private bank that they may not have had previously. So that was my question.
Aisha, it's a great question. Thank you for it. There's no question that we can always do better in living up to those meritocratic principles. I'll give you one example. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they don't recruit at rural colleges in Florida. They don't recruit at HBCUs. They recruit at top target schools. That is not meritocratic. Top talent is everywhere in America. You have to open up that funnel as much as possible. There's a lot of research that shows that resumes get thrown out if they have weird names. Increasingly, a lot of recruiters are telling surveyors that they have a no whites policy in terms of not hiring white Americans. Others will throw away the resume of a black American. And so a true meritocracy, what it says, Aisha, is that the person will be hired based on what skills, talents, and abilities they possess, nothing more. There is no question that Americans from all walks of life can rise to the challenge and get hired and should do so. And I'll tell you, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, someone who I have a number of disagreements with, but I respect her immensely. It was not fair to her and her family when President Biden said, I'm going to hire a black woman for the job no matter what. He came out and said that. And then he picked her. What he should have said was, I'm going to hire the best legal scholar, and then picked her. No one in America deserves to be hired or excluded because of their race or gender. They deserve the dignity and respect of being hired by what they bring to the table. Thank you.
And again, I want to praise you because you're courageous.
Yeah.
You ask a tough question because we come from one point of view and you come from perhaps a
great
different
question.
one. I want to try and reassure you that most people in America don't want to be racist. In fact, I can prove that, and this is a really fascinating proof. Somebody, who told me this? It was a caller to a talk show. He said, the reason people fear being called a racist, you know why? Because most Americans think racism is bad. Nobody wants to be called a racist, right? It's like I tell my kids, don't ever say anything like that. If you're called a racist, that's a really bad thing. I'm not saying anything crazy. People do not want to be called a racist, or a bigot, or a homophobe, or an anti-Semite, or an anti-Muslim, or anything. Nobody wants to be, right? It's because the general sense of society is that, as Martin Luther King said, don't judge me by my immutable characteristics, but the content of my character. So that's the goal we're going for. Are we perfect? No. Are we going to make mistakes? Yes. Do I make mistakes? Every single day I make mistakes. I try not to make it based on gender orientation, religion, any of those things. Are there, unfairnesses in American society? Yes. But I think probably the biggest one, the biggest privilege is being born American or being an immigrant here. That's maybe, and I hope I'm not going to offend anybody, being in a two-parent family, being the kid of a two-parent family, the statistics, I'm not saying anything ethical, the statistics, and Barack Obama was the one who said this, the statistics show if you are born in a two-parent family, you graduate from high school, you get married before you have kids, you get a job, you're going to have a fine life. A lot of things fall off the rails because people don't hit all those measures, and we should strive to help. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations and some government organizations that really do a great job to try and help, and I encourage everybody to give and support and do those kind of things. I hope that helps answer your question. I know it's not perfect.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Francisco.